Hello, Tess. How are you?
I'm great. This is so cool. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to have you here in the studio and to talk about your new series, or I guess we would call it a web series, Cleaner Daze. Tell me about that.
So, Cleaner Daze is a dark comedy digital series, and it's about addiction, but it's definitely not a PSA about addiction. It's a dark comedy. So I kind of say it's like Orange is the New Black, but it's about teenagers in drug rehab, and it's set in a rehab in Santa Cruz where I live.
So Orange is the New Black meets Celebrity Rehab.
Yeah,
sort
of like that.
Yeah.
Or like The Wire meets Wet Hot American Summer.
Okay. All right. Got it.
Yeah, it's definitely funny, but it's like I think people who are in recovery get it even more. Everybody loves it. However, I feel like people in recovery, like that's really my community, that's my audience. Those jokes, I think resonate, you know.
So we want to really reach other people outside of recovery, because everybody in recovery understands the rehab concept or the process of rehab. But I think what your goal might be, obviously, is to reach all the people that maybe need recovery or the families that, you know.
Definitely. And I think it is universal because it's human issues. And everybody, even if you're not an addict or have never been an addict, you know somebody. It's so prevalent.
Oh, for sure.
And I personally think that everybody's kind of addicted to something. So it touches on that human, you know, the disposition of feeling powerless over something, whether it's dieting, CrossFit, you know.
Well, I know when Celebrity Rehab aired, people actually learned about rehab, and people, you know, it was kind of a scary idea. What is rehab? A lot of people didn't know what rehab.
Right.
Now everyone sort of knows what rehab is, but I think this even opens it up even more, you know, for just anybody. So what inspired you to do this? Are you in recovery yourself?
Yeah, I'm in recovery. So I just got 17 years clean.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So my own recovery definitely, I feel like, has been about finding my purpose in life, because I think part of the reason that us addicts like get caught in that cycle is sort of struggling. Who am I? Self-medicating those questions. And part of me getting clean was about finding out who I wanted to be in this world. And, you know, when I got out of rehab, I went back to school. I started over from nothing. I ended up getting my master's in film directing from UCLA, just like straight out the gate. Like I went to rehab, amazing. I did an SLE, and I found that I love filmmaking, and I always write from a place of truth. So a lot of my stories have to do with addiction, psych wards, whatever, like that world, because that is what I know. And I think the best writing comes from a place of truth. So I strive for that authenticity.
I love that. And I think this may inspire someone out there that is struggling to find their purpose, because we know, you know, we have to replace the addiction with something in our life that gives us meaning and passion.
Yeah.
So I love the idea that you actually went back to school. That's possible.
Oh, totally.
You know.
Totally. And also I ongoing work with at-risk youth, and I volunteer with teens in treatment. So I love that population, because there's a lot of drama in that setting. There's like a lot, you know, the kids don't really want to be clean. A lot of the people in the rehab are struggling with their own recovery or various stages of, you know, and it's an interesting time. And I think that youth drug culture is also really interesting. So I feel like my show Cleaner Daze has legs that can go so many places. There's so many layers of the drama.
Their issues are definitely unique. Does it also include young adults, or?
Definitely. And, you know, even though there are teens in the world, it's not a teen show. It's not, it's the lead character is a young rehab counselor, youngish. I mean, she's in her late 20s. She went to rehab. She's a drug addict in recovery. She has like 6 years clean. It's her first time working in a treatment center, but it's her story. So we're going in through that lens, through her life experience. And she gets to know the kids and stuff, but she has this home life, and she has a past, and her husband died and left her alone with a teenage stepson who kind of hates her, and has budding addictions of his own. And
again, inspiring that somebody can get clean and sober and then work at a rehab. I mean, again, that will inspire somebody out there, because our magazine is all about inspiring. So that's why I keep saying,
oh yeah,
you know, I want people to see that there's always hope after they get sober.
Totally.
How does it differ from other shows related to recovery or addiction?
It's so different. Well, first of all, it's the best one. I will say that.
Okay, well, of course.
But also, it's unique in that a lot of the people on the cast are addicts in recovery, and some of them are broken. Most of them don't have headshots. A couple of them have mug shots. Most of them have never acted on a film set before. And I didn't do that intentionally at first. But what I found was I knew that I wanted to have some people, like real kids, based on being inspired by a show.
How did you find them?
Well, I did an open casting call in the community.
Okay.
And I hung posters and I wrote on there like experience with addiction, homelessness, the foster system, a plus. Like gold stars for that. And you don't have to have a headshot.
But they didn't have to necessarily be actors or actresses.
No.
What a great opportunity
and
for
then
these kids.
But then we like auditioned them, and I just knew in my heart, like when I was younger, there were things I wanted to do, but I didn't have a headshot. I didn't believe in myself, and I thought, let me just like see what happens. And I went to the teen drop-in center for homeless youth, and I sort of like I found a couple people in there that I was like, I want you to come audition. And
what a great story.
Yeah, so a lot of the kids,
fulfilling for them.
Yeah, and some of our favorite cast members are the ones who have lived it. And what I have found ongoing in my mission is that it is a huge part of it is that I want to ongoing provide opportunities to addicts who are people who have experience and who feel broken somehow or feel like life has passed them by or feel ashamed of their past.
It just makes it so authentic. How has it changed your own recovery, this whole journey?
Interesting. It's a couple of things. One, it has been really empowering for me in that, like I said, part of my recovery has been about coming to terms with my life purpose. And so I'm happiest when I'm engaged in a project. So by having Cleaner Daze, like I'm fully engaged. I love directing. I love being on set. I love working with actors. I love writing.
So you're kind of obviously mixing your art with recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, it couldn't get better than that, right?
It couldn't get better. I mean, once I'm actually making a large paycheck from it, I think that'll be awesome. It's like, then it will all come together.
Yeah.
Because right now, it's a labor of love. It's a passion project. But I believe in my heart of hearts, when you do what you love, that the money will follow.
For sure.
You know?
Absolutely.
But the downside about it, because it has affected my recovery in another way, and this, I'm just full transparency here, is it is scary to put yourself out there publicly. Like, I have 17 years clean, so therefore I'm cured, or I used to be a drug addict. When you put yourself out there, just like Demi Lovato, like her song.
So it makes you very vulnerable that, what if I had a relapse? What would that mean?
Exactly. It terrifies me. Like, what if something happened? What if all of a sudden I had 3 days clean? I mean, we're never cured, you know what I mean? And it brings
up a little bit of an insecurity.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you look at it this way, we know it's a one day at a time process. So really,
we know that, but also, publicly out in the world with that discount, it's scary. It's a little scary, you know?
That's very interesting. But then think of it this way. Look at Dr. Drew, he's not an addict, and that is his specialty.
Lucky.
He talks about it all the time, right? He's an admitted codependent. I wrote a book about addiction and sobriety and the law of attraction. I really was a big believer in the law of attraction. I worked in the addiction field, so I kind of put them together in a book, but I'm not an addict. So I think you can have different, shades to this whole thing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily about rehab, like you're talking about it or you're showing it, you're exhibiting it as a process. So what do you mean by that, as a process?
Well, I think there's a myth that you go to rehab and you come out, like you go in dirty and you come out clean, especially with parents. They're like, I'm going to drop my kid off at the front door. They're going to and he's going to come out better and fixed, and that's not true. Rehab doesn't always work. I went twice. Well, the first time, I wasn't quite ready. I left after a couple of days, but the second time I was ready, and I was ready to hear the message. And, but the truth is, it's ongoing. It like you said, it's a daily reprieve. Like every day, I choose to not use drugs today. But
what's sad today is that rehabs are not, insurance companies are not paying for long-term recovery as they were. It's really changing, cracking down.
But the truth is, like, I don't think everybody needs rehab. I did. I needed to be taken off of my corner of crazy where I was living, like right near the dealer and the sketchiness, and I was just put in a safe space for 30 days surrounded by other people who were going through the same thing that I was, and I really needed it. That's why I love volunteering in rehab and going back to rehabs and stuff and speaking, because I'll never forget what it felt like to be there. And there is a place where you're hungry for that inspiration and it's a special time. But yeah, it doesn't always work. You get out.
I mean, it must be frustrating knowing that some of these rehabs can't hold people longer because of the insurance companies. So you had this opportunity. I'm not saying that there aren't some insurances that do pay for 30 days, but now it seems to be a lot shorter. And so what are your thoughts about that? I mean, what if you've been, discharged at 2 weeks or a week and you just had a detox?
Oh my gosh. Well, the one thing, I remember there was a joke in rehab that it was like, you pay $30,000 for them to hand you the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Like, they hand you the book and tell you, go to meetings. But ultimately, in the long haul, that is what has saved me, is going to whether it's 12-step meetings or therapeutic groups, just that group therapy model of sitting around with a group of addicts.
Well, not feeling alone in your process.
Yeah, so it did teach me, I feel like you right away learn that the best way to sort of heal is by speaking with other people who speak the same language and have lived it and have survived. It gives me hope, Like when I was young and new and broken, I remember going to my first big AA meeting in a hospital, and there were all these hot tattooed guys, and I was like, okay, I could that little shred of hope that whatever it takes. That at the time I was just broken, and sometimes it's the little sparkles of glimmers of maybe my life won't be boring. Maybe there's hope, because I always was afraid that my life was going to be boring.
How would you live without that drug or alcohol?
How could I possibly live without drugs and alcohol? Because I loved to get high. I loved it.
That was your go-to. So I'm thinking about the show. Remember the one with Sandra Bullock, or not Sandra Bullock?
Oh yeah, 28
days. And so I just had this thought of that show and how different your show is, and then what are the pros and cons of you having real addicts, and that show was obviously actors and actresses.
Well, one thing it showed, because I remember they showed it to us in rehab, right?
Yeah.
So they had a little pile of VHS tapes on the wall of rehab type movies, and one of and I want Cleaner Daze to be in that shelf, because there's not a whole lot of great recovery films, and I think 28 Days has its place. It was, I think it was great for what it was, and I mean, I would do it differently, but what was the question? How would I?
Well,
how
do you find that that was one format, and then yours is more authentic, real addicts?
Yeah.
So what are the pros and cons?
I think, one thing about when you have a script and people just perform the script, you can kind of predict where it's going, maybe sculpt it a little more in a more predictable narrative arc fashion. Where my show, what we have found really works, sort of like our secret sauce, is by casting some real addicts, and letting them do a lot of improv. So as you move along in the story, season 1 is 5 episodes. So as you get to episode 3, we start having some recovery groups, and one group, they are reading goodbye letters to their drugs of choice. And each kid wrote their own letter, and you will tear up. They're beautiful. They're funny. They're sad. And the reason
they're real.
Because they're real. And if I had written them and told the actor, you're going to read this letter.
I don't think you could do that. Yeah, it wouldn't have the same impact. I agree.
It wouldn't be the same. And one of the actors is actually my cousin, who's a recovering heroin addict, and he had 2 years clean, and he wrote a letter called Dear Mrs. Black to Heroin, and it was beautiful. When we had a big red carpet hometown premiere, people uproarious applause after his letter, and it's beautiful.
Did you use a lot of the tools that one would actually see at a rehab? I mean,
totally.
Was it from your experience, or did you do some research with other rehabs of the different modalities, different
A little bit of both. Great question. Yeah, definitely both, because I went to rehab and I remember some of those things.
Yeah.
We had to write a goodbye letter, and some of those were really profound. I remember them affecting me there. And
or a life story. You can write a life story.
Yeah. So, and also I work ongoing with at-risk youth, and I work at a girls' school And a lot of them are former gang members and have struggled with drugs. We do personal narrative writing, and sometimes I'll give them a topic to write on. They just write a couple paragraphs, beautiful, sad, touching, about really deep stuff, like, you know, about rape and assault and survival and losing parents. And then they're like giggling and eating Oreos and like being kids at the same time. And there's something really beautiful, tragic, human about putting all that stuff together. And that's sort of what I think Cleaner Daze is about. It's all the like hard, sad stuff, but combined with the joys and laughter that is how we all heal.
What would you
know?
say to someone who's still struggling out there? Like, what would inspire them to turn on Cleaner Daze?
I'd say, to watch Cleaner Daze. Well, one, because it's the best show ever made.
You have no confidence, do you?
I know,
Tess?
so they should totally watch it. But also, I think I'm a recovering IV drug user, and there is this, you know, myth that once a junkie, always a junkie. I mean, so just for today, I'm not a junkie using, you know, but like you can go on and do cool stuff, and shame doesn't have to debilitate you forever. And what I have found is that if I use my shame and sort of like wear it like a badge of honor and just say, I've been there, I've done that, and I did it all. You know, and now like I write about it. I'm very open about it. I talk a lot. We actually started a nonprofit called Loud and Clean, and our whole sort of angle is about celebrating out loud recovery. And we want to continue to do other projects aside from Cleaner Daze that sort of celebrate sobriety recovery.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of like when I was doing some life coaching or recovery coaching with some kids or young adults, you know, some of them have felonies. Some of them really have a history, a wreckage. What would you say to them? Like, oh, I can't do this. I can't. There's nothing out there for me. Look at all the wreckage I have. Well,
first of all, I'd be like, why don't you audition for my show? Because I bet you have a really interesting life story.
Great. Oh, that's awesome. So you're going to tell us how they can find you.
Yeah,
okay,
I'd be like, find me. And
great idea.
And I also think it's important to remember that it is never, ever too late. You know, well, maybe it's a little too late for me to be a child gymnast because those years are over.
Possibly, yeah.
But in general, like, it's never too late for me, the biggest, most empowering thing was going back to school, just community college even.
Right, just start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Community college was like $11 a unit. That's where I started doing some video production, and I ended up having a cable access show. And you know, I think it's so important, even if you take pottery or gardening, because the biggest thing that I think it's important to keep in mind when you get clean is you can't just stop using drugs, because you'll start using again.
Maybe someone will be inspired to open up a rehab that has acting in it.
Yeah.
And directing.
Oh, totally.
Because, you know, there's like, we were talking about, you know, centers that have music.
Yeah.
Maybe we need a recovery center that actually has, you know.
Totally. Well, because you have to start doing stuff. You have to do like knitting, anything, because you have all this free time all of a sudden.
Right.
The amount of time you spend trying to score, getting high, being hungover, like that takes up a lot of time.
And we know that addicts and alcoholics, for whatever reason, they lack the life skills because they've been living a certain way for so long, so they need structure.
Oh, totally.
And so this gives them structure.
Yeah.
So on your website, you talk about recovering out loud. So what does that mean?
I would say, you know, I love 12-step programs, and but I also think that there is this ongoing, it's almost like we're perpetuating a culture of shame is how I describe it, the anonymity. And I do respect people's anonymity. That's a personal choice. Like, I don't usually identify which 12-step program I'm a part of, and I don't want to be a spokesperson for the 12 steps. But sometimes I feel like people are afraid to come forward and just say, I'm a drug addict in recovery. And I think that we live in a time with the opioid epidemic, and we live in a time where it's really important to offer hope and say it is possible to recover and help people who are struggling.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we have a personal responsibility to give back, and not just within the recovery community, but like lend a hand outside.
Yeah, it's changing. I mean, we have so many other types of programs, you know, yoga and recovery, Buddhism and recovery, law of attraction and recovery. I mean, there's all kinds, but there's a balance between the traditions of the 12 steps and then also allowing for other things to be, brought out there, because there
Totally.
isn't like a one shoe fits all.
No,
kind of.
there's not a one shoe fits all. But the one thing I will say about the 12-step programs, and I avoided them forever because I thought it was a cult. And I still sometimes, I don't drink the Kool-Aid 100%. But I feel like it's up to us. You take what you want and leave the rest and find that path.
The greatest saying of the program.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right? But also what I've appreciated, it's totally free.
Yeah.
So wherever you are in life, if you've run out of your ability to go to rehab, insurance won't cover anything, just like...
There's still a place to go.
Yes, and
for
it's
sure.
free. And that's amazing. There's not many things like that in life. I mean, even, the gym memberships, like it's $40 a month. Most things cost money for, emotional health and well-being.
Right.
Therapy can be expensive. And if you're poor, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a foundation. And then what you do after the foundation is up to you. But I think it is the foundation of recovery.
Yeah.
So where can people find this series?
So we put it pretty much everywhere. So if you just search Cleaner Daze, you'll find it a million places, but we put it on YouTube. So we have the Cleaner Daze YouTube channel.
Okay.
CleanerDaze.com, where I definitely recommend people go to our site because you can read about our mission, or you can read about our nonprofit. Yeah. You can connect with me. You can...
so there's a contact form on there if somebody's interested? Okay.
Yeah, and we've invited people to... It's amazing. We've been getting letters from all over the world, even. People sharing their stories. People... like beautiful stories, because I find people are hungry to share and connect, and we're really looking forward to moving forward and being able to have a writer's room and get other people in recovery to start collaborating, because it's all about collaborating.
I would start with the Facebook group.
Yeah, we have Cleaner Daze Facebook page.
Group or page.
And we have a Loud and Clean Recovery talent show group.
Oh,
we have you have so many things now.
Yeah, you do.
2 Facebook pages. We have Instagram.
Right.
We have our website. And did I name them all? But YouTube, you know what? I would highly recommend YouTube, though, because everybody has a smart TV now.
You can see the whole series.
Right, and you can watch it on the big screen, which is, as a filmmaker, we like people to watch it on the big screen, not on their phones.
Got it.
Because it's gorgeous. It's really well produced, and
like I said, I liked the therapist in there. She was pretty funny. Oh yeah. She had that therapist kind of thing going on.
Yeah. So she's in recovery. She has a whole lot of clean time.
Really, she was funny. So what's next for Cleaner Daze? Is there going to be a season 2?
There's so many things. We are 2 things. Like, we're developing it for longer format episodic. Our dream would be to partner with a larger studio and have like an Amazon or Netflix original series. But at the same time, we're not waiting for permission for that. We're going to keep moving forward. So we just shot some scenes for the first episode of season 2 last week. So we've already started casting.
So you're moving forward.
Yeah, we're moving forward. We definitely need to do a big old crowdfunding campaign, probably
Well, what
in the
you
next
told me
couple
earlier
months.
just really touched me when you said that so much stuff was donated to make this happen. Like,
oh yeah.
So out of pocket, you didn't have to spend a whole lot of money.
No, we really got support from the community, and I feel like moving forward, as people see like what we have done and the impact we're having and the opportunities we're providing,
Well, I don't think there's anything been written or directed or produced about teenagers in recovery. I mean, I think we've had like intervention, and we've had celebrity rehab. I don't think we've done it.
Well, no, there was one called Recovery Road. It was like an ABC family show.
Oh, okay.
It was very different. I mean, it was a Hollywood production, and they were actors.
Were they teenagers then?
Yeah, they were teenagers. Okay. It was very different.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah, very different.
I mean, what a great place to start, teenagers.
Yeah.
Like when it's if you can get hope then. I mean, have you ever met somebody that got sober when they're a teenager? How amazing their life is. Like,
I know.
It's unbelievable.
I know.
It's unbelievable.
And some of them do stay clean. A lot of them don't.
Right.
But I feel like if we could just plant the seed, that's what I just think, like, plant the seed so they have that little voice that knows that if they are ready and they are done and feel hopeless or powerless, that they might know what to do and where to go, and that they aren't alone.
Yeah. Do you have resources for them?
That I would offer? I'm like, there is a huge young people's like AA, young people's NA. I'm a firm believer in that, because you have to find your people.
Yeah.
If you go into a group and it's like a bunch of old bogeys,
You have to change everything.
You
You
have
really
to
change everything.
You do have to change it. But kids don't want to hear that because they don't want to leave their friends.
No.
That's why it's really hard with kids, because they get out of rehab and they go home and all their friends are partying, and it's not easy.
No, it's very difficult, but
You
but it
know?
can be done. And
Yeah,
you're
and you
doing
just have to find new sober friends who are really
Right.
cool, and they
Right.
do exist, because a lot of the kids who are sober used to be the biggest party animals of all, who just found, that it wasn't working for them. And,
Exactly.
And their lives aren't boring.
Exactly. That's right. Let's inspire those young people.
Yes.
And thank
Yeah.
you for what you're doing, Tess, and thank you for coming today for this interview. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we close? Just
Definitely everybody should watch Cleaner Daze, like today. And then write to me. I'd love to hear people's thoughts,
Love
and
that.
Definitely, yeah.
And you might even be cast in the
you
season
never
2.
know.
So I think that's fantastic.
We're always
That's great.
looking. We're always looking. So
Excellent.
thank you. This has been really
Oh,
fun.
and I wish you the greatest success on this journey. I
Thank
love your
you.
labor of love. It's an amazing thing. I hope it becomes even more than a labor of love for you.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.